So I'm going to start by reading the blurb and then I'm going to just read a couple of chapters. So This With a Kiss is an exciting new paranormal romance that will leave you reeling as soon as the last page is closed. Paige, a 20-year-old girl who finds more comfort between the pages of a book than she does in the real world around her, weighed down by the monotony of her daily life and expectations. When Lawrence appears in her life out of the blue, she can't help but think the attraction they instantly share is a sign from the universe that life might start looking up. Lawrence is a reaper, a being sent by the universe to take the souls of those recently passed on. But when Paige appears on Lawrence's list, he can't help but feel the injustice of taking a life so young and so unlived. As he struggles to navigate between his duty and his growing desire towards his charge, he must decide if he can do the one thing he is ordained to do: reap Paige's soul. As Paige and Lawrence grow closer and the strings of the universe wrap around them, will their feelings be enough to save Paige, or will the universe win in this game of life or death? So yeah, that was the blurb. I'm just gonna jump right into it. So if you haven't read the book or haven't bought it yet, which is a mistake, at the start of the book there's a playlist. So there is a QR code within the book that links to Spotify, and each chapter has a song that relates to the book. So I think I've put the Spotify playlist in my bio anyway, but yeah, so each chapter has its own song related to it, and the playlist is quite a good one, if I do say so myself, or at least it's like all my favourite kind of songs. So yeah, that's a cool fact about the book. So yeah, let's get into it. So my reading voice isn't the best, so apologies in advance. It's not the most expressive, but I'll try to read slow so you can kind of take it in. Prologue. The thing about time is that it's always guaranteed, but never for a determined period. This is why humans inevitably fail. They fail because they only realise how precious time is when it's slipping between their fingers and they're slipping away. And like everything in this cruel world, time is not given to each person in equal measure. Some bask in the beauty of a century well lived, whilst others fight with their every breath just to make it through another day. But that is the way of all things. The impossibility of the hand you're dealt is one you have very little say in, and the only way to rebel against the strings of fate is by making those few years or few decades count. It is not enough to just exist, going through the motions of each day in a feeble caricature of living. Instead, it's taking the big risks, it's putting yourself on the edge of a knife to feel alive. That is what it means to live. The true beauty of the human existence is that it's finite. You can live for centuries on the outside, a pariah looking through the window at human civilization, but that is not living and it isn't life. Human life is that much more beautiful because it isn't infinite, it will end. Death is what makes life worth living, because you're racing against a clock you cannot see, and know that at some undefined point in the future the seconds will wind down until all that is left is one final breath, and then you're gone. And without the clock you're all racing against, each adventure, word, action will simply fail to have meaning because you could will simply fail to have meaning because you could go on living those same things over and over again until it all blurs into one. And that is the whole point of living, to win the race against the cosmic clock by experiencing as much as you can in the time that you are granted. To be alive means to let go of your fear of the end and embrace it for the blessing it is, that you got to be here in the first place. Time is not the enemy, you are. So that was the prologue. Now on to chapter 1, Lawrence. I can't remember when I began reaping. One minute I was nothing, the next minute I was born out of the darkness. My purpose of ferrying those bright lights humans call souls, the only thing I knew. Ever since, I spent my days watching the human world from the outside, waiting for the call of death to wash over the people on my list. Only when a soul is on the cusp of never being do I get to interact, do I get to step in. They say you never forget your first, and I couldn't agree more. At the root of all things, souls are just light, airy substances that pass through the gate of my body into the so-called bliss of the afterworld. It doesn't really matter who people are in life, because in death they are all the same, gone. But I do remember the first soul that I took, in the same way one remembers the long ago story told by their grandparents. It happened so quickly. I wasn't even sure what was happening. My body followed on instinct alone, the maudlin cry of an unreached soul, until I appeared on a dreary grey alley surrounded by discarded rubbish and unwanted things. I don't recall much, but I do recall the lifeless lump heaped with stained and tattered blankets, my first and perhaps most dismal view of human life. I reached my hand down to the lifeless body, beckoning the soul to me so I could help it on its journey. I wasn't sure what I would feel when their soul passed through my body, but the energetic bubble of life that flooded me left me feeling numb once it had passed through. When the soul had passed on, I was left with this hollowness inside. I hadn't realised the nothingness I was until that brief touch of humanity. And ever since then, it has been the same feeling, one soul after another in an endless mirage. Centuries have passed and I'm living on autopilot, no longer paying attention to the individual souls I reap. Each charge may as well be the same person. Yes, it is on Amazon. I look at my list and the next name appears, or sometimes in extreme circumstances we're doled out our charges by the head overseer at Reba HQ. I make my way to Anchor's office to receive my next charge, feeling nothing but emptiness at yet another day doing the same thing on constant repeat. There you are, Law. Please do take a seat. I say nothing and sit down. I wait. Your next soul is called Paige Waters. She's young, barely on the cusp of adulthood, and she is yours to reap. Each statement is a fact, giving me very little detail into who Paige Waters is, but that's fine. It makes the job easier. The detachment. She isn't due to die just yet, but since she will die quite young, the universe thought it prudent for you to watch over her for a little while beforehand, but do not interact. You will watch from afar. Do I make myself clear? Anchor demands, and I nod like I'm supposed to. I've always been good at doing my job, watching from afar. I couldn't imagine why Anchor would think I'd ever be interested in crossing that line. No problem, sir. Leave Paige's soul with me. I stand and start to turn and head out his office. Law. I turn back around Anchor's voice. Remember what I've said, keep your distance. Confused at his lack of faith in me, a small rebellion takes place on the tip of my tongue, urging me to speak back at him, snap at him, tell him to stop being so overbearing. But I know that will lead nowhere, so I say nothing and head out of his room and start scoping out my new charge. Paige Waters. There's a cadence to that name. Never have two words intrigued me so. And yes, they matter little, since they are just a summons of her impending demise. The sound of her name drags me down, and I let my Reaper senses take over and spirit me away to my next charge. And though her name will soon be just another string of letters in a series of 1,000 from over the centuries, I cling to it like it holds an answer I didn't know I was asking. Paige Waters. I picture her name in my head, and then I'm slipping away and racing towards her. Paige Waters, Paige Waters, Paige Waters. Yeah, hello, just for anyone who new who's joined, I'm just doing a reading of my book This With a Kiss. It is on Amazon. You can message me if you want me to send you the link, but the link is also in my bio. So it's called This With a Kiss by Amy Keeley. That is me. So chapter 2, Paige. I wouldn't say I'm a naturally happy person, but I do try. I try my hardest to see the good things in life, but dressing in black and getting ready for a funeral isn't exactly the kind of thing that inspires a sanguine outlook on life. And like an 1800s Bronte novel, the sky outside is dreary and grey, nature joining in on the morose mood of the day. I'm not close with many people. I tend to keep people at a distance. Life is easier when I'm the only one who can hurt me. Rather than letting people in and trusting them with something as precious as my heart and my time, I keep to myself. And yes, I'm sometimes hit with pangs of loneliness and crippling waves of anguish that my mind conjures for no good reason. But it's a lifestyle I have slowly become accustomed to. The constancy of my solitude is a sad kind of comfort I have made a home out of, but I prefer it this way. My mind doesn't work when there's too much chaos, too much uncertainty. I let my mind wander over these thoughts as I zip up the side of my black velvet dress. It seems almost wrong to be dressing for a funeral of someone I barely know, yet my mum told me it would be rude and unbecoming not to at least show my face. As I'm smoothing my hands over the creases in my dress, I hear the doorbell ring. I quickly pin back my hair, leaving 2 strands at the front to frame my face, and race downstairs towards the door. Hey, Ari says, his blonde hair and blue eyes a stark contrast to the black blazer and trousers he's managed to wrangle his body into. Hey, I nod somberly. I grab my keys off the side and lock the door behind me. Lilith and Willis are in the car, but I called shotgun for you, Ari says as we walk down the path, wincing slightly at his choice of words. I smile at him gently, a silent thank you. Is everyone from work going? I ask as we slide into the car, the heater blazing against the chill of the day, a warm cocoon of comfort. Yeah, Lilith says from the seat behind me. Apparently he didn't really have any family, so Helen told all the staff to do their best to come. Can you imagine dying like that all by yourself? She says and slumps back into her seat. I don't have it in me to say that dying alone is the peace I've always dreamed of. Yeah, it's sad, I say instead. I look out the window and watch as the concrete houses pass by until the grey turns into a blur of green empty fields and grass. Time passes and then suddenly we're hauling ourselves out of Harry's car. A sea of black clothes beckons us forward, and we're soon integrated into the gathering of people here for the funeral. Helen, the general manager of the leisure centre, makes her way over to us, giving each of us a sad smile in turn. "Thanks for coming today, we're all over here." We follow behind her, little ducks swimming furiously to keep up with their mother's assured leg strokes. I see faces I recognise mingled with those I don't. We stand in a semicircle facing the priest at the front, Hewitt's coffin hovering above the open chasm of the earth beneath him. It's startling to see how small the coffin is. All his years of life have come down to 4 walls of wood, panels and the gold details of the handles. "We are here today to celebrate the life of one Hewitt McCarthy," the priest begins, and the hushed conversations draw to a close, a pall of silence falling over the crowd. The priest eulogises Hewitt's life, from his charity work and extensive coin collection to the 50 years he spent working at the same leisure centre I do now, a stalwart lifeguard if there ever were one. How bleak it seems to do the same thing day in and day out for 50 years. I wonder what they will say at my funeral. What paltry words will my life be prescribed to, condensed down into? Paige Waters, book lover, loner, broken. At least I'll never actually learn what he said at my funeral, and what a relief that will be. My mind wanders as the priest wraps up his sermon, ending on a poem about how death is a reward for a life well lived. My eyes travel over the crowd, and though it's rather sombre, no one cries, instead hanging their heads dejectedly as they're waiting for the opportunity to leave. "Amen," the priest intones, and it's like a calling bell back to the real world. There's a loud echoing of footsteps as people make their way back to their cars. I get lost in the languid frenzy of movement and lose sight of Harry and the gang, but I don't mind. I walk back in the general direction of where Harry parks his car and read the headstones as I go. I've always had a morbid fascination with headstones. I love reading all the names from centuries long past: Theodora, Artemis, Algernon, Ezra. It's like inspiration for baby names in a sardonic kind of way. Although as the years pass, the thought of having my own children scares me. Why would I want to pass on my inherent failings to those too innocent to battle them? Why would I want to raise a child in this cruel world that surrounds us? I stumble on from headstone to headstone, taken in by all the whimsical and ancient names. A blur to my right catches my eyes and I turn towards it. I'm caught off guard by the most beautiful face I've ever seen. It seems almost sacrilegious for a face so handsome to be in a cemetery surrounded by the dead. His beauty is unconventional, haunting in a way that radiates deep from his soul. He stares at me intensely as though I'm the only person here, the mass of mourners behind me seemingly invisible to him, and though it seems crazy out in the cold and surrounded by the dead, that stare seems to awaken a warmth deep inside me. His eyes lock onto mine, and it's as if something inside me seems to click and unfurl, like clouds finally shifting to reveal the sun. I swallow, trying to rein in this sudden flood of emotion, and able to look away despite myself. His dark hair is haphazardly pushed back from his face, accentuating his sharp jawline. Despite his attempt to push it back, the careless waves fall forward, sitting dramatically on his high cheekbones in a flurry of chaotic control. He seems a sort of enigma. The burnt coffee of his eyes overwhelms me. As I stand looking at him, my hand resting on the cool surface of a headstone, he seems to blur before my eyes. One moment he's devastatingly handsome, sharp angles and depthless eyes. The next he's all hollowed out, cheeks sunken in, his face more skeletal than a corporeal, breathing body. As I look at him, my eyes can't quite settle on his face. It blurs between human boy and skeleton, as though he's a living depiction of a holographic image. Weird, I say to myself. Maybe I have lingered too long in the cemetery, the eerie feeling of being surrounded by death addling my mind. I unconsciously take a step towards him, my body drawn to him by some unseeable connection. The moment my foot moves forward though, he seems to blur, his body and face becoming a shimmery, intangible thing, as though he isn't really there at all. A frowning confusion blinking my eyes to clear my vision. I turn around and spot Harry waving at me from his car and head towards him, but can't help the sudden compulsion to look over my shoulder, some desperate growing light inside of me urging me to look back one more time into those deep dark eyes. But as I turn around, the boy whose eyes seemed to bore right into my soul has disappeared, as though he was never there to begin with. Should I do one more chapter? How long's the next one? They're short chapters, just another reason to read. We love a short chapter. Okay, I'll do one more. Chapter 3, Lawrence. Her name is Paige Waters and she is next to die. And I know the idea of death isn't nice, but these sacrifices need to be made for the world to stay balanced in order. It's just the way it is. No emotion, just cosmic order. Humans have always puzzled me with the way they let their feelings get in the way. I'm convinced that the world would be a much better, less chaotic realm if everyone just switched off their emotions. Flick switch, it's all gone, and then everyone would just be a whole lot more reasonable. If humans accepted things the way we Reapers do, with grace and knowing to trust in the universe, then I think life really could be one big happy dream. I always feel this way before another kill, so to speak. If I rationalise and justify the nature of my job, the very nature of death itself, then it makes taking a life that much easier. I don't relish the thought of helping people, not the way some of my co-workers do, jumping into the fray with the thrill of a lion chasing a mouse. I mourn it, wallow in it even, until the only thing left to do is to take these unsuspecting victims to the golden gates of the beyond, or the fiery realms of the abyss. That's my job, you see, ushering people into the afterlife, ensuring souls make it to their end destination without a glitch in the system. Some people call us angels of death, others harbingers of justice, but in fact we are reapers. We reap the souls of this life and cast them off into the next. Without us, the world would be total chaos and anarchy, no love and happiness, but unending misery, because, though it doesn't always seem that way, death really does bring peace. Paige Waters, she is next to die. A young 20-year-old with her whole life ahead of her is next on my hit list. Yes, it's sad. Yes, young people shouldn't die, but that is the way the world works, whether we agree with it or not, whether humans agree with it or not. My superiors told me to scope her out today, and after a conversation with a fellow Reaper and a few nudges here and there, I'm presented with the perfect location for my inauguration into Paige's life, a funeral. In this setting, not only am I afforded the opportunity to familiarise myself with her, but also, and perhaps more importantly, it allows the idea of death to sink into Paige as well. I make my way over to a quiet section of tombstones, waiting for the proceedings from afar. Though it isn't quite raining yet, it's not far off, and the smell of rain soon hangs heavy in the air. I can hear the monotonal eulogy of the priest's voice, but he's not what I came here to observe. Letting my Reaper senses awaken, my eyes and mind scan the crowd, waiting to feel that rush of certainty, that inherent knowing that comes with the first glimpse of a new charge. A sea of black, and yet there is a golden glimmer right on the edge of the crowd. Paige. My heart jolts. I know this is Paige. I feel it all the way through my bones. Like all the other mourners, she's dressed from head to toe in black, yet where on some it is overpowering and forceful, there's a quiet fierceness to Paige that lets her wear such a dark colour without being worn by it. Her hair, which is tied back except for 2 strands, is the kind of brown that reminds me of sunshine, filtered through with ginger and gold. I can't see her eyes from this distance, but man, I bet they're beautiful. I mean, she's beautiful. I can barely see her face from the quiet corner of the cemetery, yet I can feel the truth of it even as I think it. I've never felt this way before, not about any of my victims. I normally regard them with uninterested passivity, but Paige, she mesmerises me. I can already tell that this isn't going to be an easy assignment. Trying to get a steer on what's raging inside me, I watch the priest say his closing lines and the subsequent flood of people that follow, all wanting to be on their way back to their daily lives. In the mass exodus of people, it isn't hard to separate Paige from her friends, using my Reaper senses to guide her slowly towards me. As she stumbles through the cemetery in search of her friend, she takes her time. Her hand trails from tombstone to tombstone, her eyes concentrating on the names that adorn their surface. Each tombstone brings her closer to me, and a tingle of premonition runs through my system. The closer she gets, the more of her I can make out. The soft curves of her face, the uncertain worry of her lips. Her eyes such a vibrant blue, the sky would be envious of them. I find myself moving closer before I know what I'm doing, driven by something more than just the bond between a Reaper and their charge. My sudden movement startles Paige and she turns towards me. Suddenly I'm looking into her eyes and it's the first ray of sunlight on a frosty day, making me realise how cold I was before being graced with the warmth of her attention. Paige, her name is called in the distance and she turns towards the sound, vague dash of blonde hair and a hand calling her over to them. Looking over her shoulder, she nods her acknowledgement. Knowing that she's already slipping away from me, I know I've failed before I've even begun. In the place where death reigns above all else, I can let my true self emerge. Only in a cemetery where death pervades every corner can I allow humans a glimmer of the monster beneath my skin. It's only by surrounding myself in the horror and sorrow curling around each tombstone that I can horrify them without the truth of who I am, that I can horrify them with the truth of who I am. This world really is a mad place to be, but Paige looks at me as if the skeleton beneath my skin is something of intrigue, not fear, and I don't know what to do with that fact. She walks away, and yet I do not follow. Though I know I was only here today to see who she was, I can't bring myself to break the intensity of whatever it was that transpired between us. I find myself wanting to introduce myself to her, even though to do so goes against strict orders. So I let myself fade away, using my Reaper invisibility to disappear into the shadows. But even as I fade away into the blur of the cosmos, I can't help the pit that seems to have formed inside of me, a denial of what I know I've been ordained to do. I haven't even really met her yet, and already the idea of her dying by my hand is too much to bear. A weight settles between my shoulders, one I know will be most likely with me from this day forward. I will do one more for symmetry, because then I've done 2 chapters from each perspective. And then if you're enjoying it that much, you should buy it and see how it ends. Sorry. Reading makes me thirsty, or reading out loud makes me thirsty. Okay, last chapter, chapter 4, Paige. I wake up feeling groggy, the downcast weather from yesterday persisting in the sound of rain on my bedroom window, a peaceful lullaby, goading me back to sleep. To love the sound of rain is cliche, I know, but the way the rain patters against the panes of glass fills me with the kind of peacefulness even kings would envy. When people talk of rain, they tend to only hear the force of it or the wet misery it bestows on the earth. What people fail to notice is the cadence of it, the delicate pitter-patter of each individual drop, how hollow and insignificant one slice of rain is without the cacophony of a storm. Rain is like a musical, full of endless rhythms and melodies made only beautiful by the abundance of raindrops working together. Sighing, I pull myself out of bed, already 15 minutes behind time. I try to conjure up the guilt I know I should feel at being late for my morning biology seminar, but those extra 15 minutes in bed were just what I needed. Relatable. I rush around my room, throwing on leggings and a baggy sweatshirt. I tend to favour comfortable clothes. I've always thought jeans to be so unbearable, their tendency to rub in the wrong places making them the antithesis of comfort. I choose comfort over style any day of the week. Another relatable comment. I'll grab a cereal bar out the kitchen cupboard, not having time to eat a real breakfast, and head out to my car. It's really tipping it down now, and like the idiot I am, I failed to wear a coat. I quickly throw open my car door, slipping inside. My car isn't flashy or brand new, but I love it all the same. I start the car and signal as I pull out of my drive, savouring the sound of the rain on my windscreen over any music on the radio. The road blurs past me in a haze of grey concrete and rain. I head onto the motorway and groan in discontent. Ahead of me is an ocean of cars, all unmoving, blocking my quick journey to uni. I'm definitely going to be late, but there's nothing I can do about it now, short of rewinding my day, so I just sit and allow the rain to soothe away my irritation. I crawl along the motorway, barely hitting 40 miles per hour. Cars in front of me honk and swear, taking their frustration out on those around them. I've never really fallen prey to the whole road rage thing. There's some real tongue twisters in this. Road rage thing. I mean, of course, I get irritated by people who don't drive well enough to justify owning a licence, but I don't see the point in putting myself in danger by getting too heated. I take a deep breath and carry on driving, praying I don't miss my entire biology seminar. I pull into the car park, swearing silently to myself. I was stuck in traffic for almost 2 hours, meaning I've missed 3/4 of my seminar. Knowing my seminar finishes in half an hour, it doesn't seem worth attending now. I guess I'll just ask someone for notes and email my tutor saying I was ill. It's not the end of the world, but since I actually bothered to get up and come to class, I can't help but feel mildly aggravated by it. The only cure for this kind of mood is coffee. Not that I need any excuse to have coffee. I know it's not the best thing to be addicted to. I know it's not the best thing to drink all the time, but there are worse things in life to be addicted to by far. Walking to the coffee shop, I pass by the science building where my 9 o'clock seminar is taking place and hope that no one recognises me. I know they won't though. My presence is as insignificant as a grain of sand on a vast beach. From the outside, there seems to be no real queue in the coffee shop. I've missed the 9 o'clock rush, and most classes won't finish until 10 now, so I'm well ahead of the next big queue. I open the door and take a deep breath, feeling instantly more refreshed by the mere smell of bitter coffee beans and sweet syrup that coats the air. There's all of 2 people in front of me, so I shouldn't be waiting too long. I drink so much coffee that ordering it doesn't faze me anymore. I used to be a nervous wreck when ordering any kind of food, reciting the order in my head 10 times over before reaching the till, but now my order just rolls off my tongue, subconsciously coming to me as though it's a second language. The man in front of me orders a plain black coffee. Boring. They're not my preferred drink. They're not my preferred drink. I'm drawn in by the pureness of it. How bottomless the black liquid appears. It seems almost infinite. I'm jolted by the colour of it, the familiarity of that dark brown, igniting something low in my stomach. It reminds me of something, someone, but I can't put my finger on who it could be. I shake my head, ridding myself of my strange delusions. The man in front of me moves out of the way, so I head up to the counter to place my order. 1 caramel latte, please. I say large. I add almost as an afterthought. That weird feeling tugs at me still, causing me to almost mess my order up. I frown at myself in confusion. I watch in fascination as the barista pours the milk into the coffee. Realisation dawned on me. The dark brown of the coffee reminds me of dark, haunting eyes. The eyes of the boy from the cemetery yesterday. My stomach drops out from beneath me, tunneling away in a hollowing swell. I grab my coffee off the side absently, swiping my card on the machine to pay. Why did that make my heart twist slightly? How can I ever enjoy coffee again if the mere sight of it produces butterflies in my stomach and an insensible yearning for a brooding boy I don't even know? It's official. I'm crazy and stupid and utterly pathetic. I need to get over myself. I head to the library in a vain attempt to get some work done. Perhaps if I keep my mind busy, I won't be so torn up by those haunting eyes. As I walk through the library doors, I'm accosted by a flurry of cold air from the air conditioning, making my baby hair fly all over the place. I turn right, heading for the silent study space, hoping my favourite booth at the back will be free. Even though it's barely 10 o'clock, it's surprising how quickly the library fills up. Walking down the grey carpeted area, I spot a booth right at the back that appears to be free. I slide into the seat, placing my bag on the seat opposite me to mark my territory. I set my books out and take a deep drink of my coffee, overcome with that satisfying first sip. It's perfect. My day is officially better. Since I missed my seminar this morning, I may as well try and do some of the reading for it so that when I eventually ask for someone's notes, I'll be all caught up. This week we're learning about mitosis, which I already thought I knew from school, but apparently there's so much more to it than A-level biology seems to suggest. I grab my coffee and put my headphones in. I put on some Tame Impala, a soulful trance that pulses through me, and delve into the sea of reading ahead of me. 3 laborious hours later, and I've managed to get all my reading done for that module and have a growing headache as a reward. I pack my stuff up, determined to get some fresh air and head outside. Campus is pretty dead. The concrete walkway is still slipped with rain. Tawny leaves stuck to the ground, making the already slippery floor hazardous. Unfortunately, I still have a late lecture before I can call it a day and head home. I'm so clumsy. Where am I? I'm so clumsy that I take extra care to walk slowly, making sure to avoid any areas that look super slippery. Even though it's late and my mind is frazzled from all the reading, I'm looking forward to this lecture. Since we're adults now, Mr. Harry told. We do love a caramel latte. Since we're adults now, Mr. Harry told us to call him Thor. I'm losing the plot. Okay, sorry, let me start again. Where was I? Since we're adults now, Mr. Harry told us to call him Tom, because this isn't school and some of the rigid rules of school life, although not completely vanished, ebb away slightly once we enter the adult education system that is university. I make it to the lecture theatre and grab a seat a couple of rows back from the board. I take my time getting out my notebook and pens whilst the other students file in. Even though I see some of these people multiple times a day or several days a week, I feel disconnected from them, and it probably is my own fault. I'm too shy to spark up a conversation, not knowing how to drive a conversation past the opening lines of hello. The only time I ever really speak to those around me is when we have to partner up for lab studies or prepare a presentation on a research topic picked out by one of our lecturers. A few of the people I've been paired with in the past walk past my row and offer a small smile their way. Heidi, the pretty blonde who I worked with on a presentation on the organelles of a plant. waves and sits down next to me. Although I might not know any of these people intimately since working together, Heidi and I have made the effort to sit next to each other in lectures and share notes if we need to. Hey, how are you? She asks as she pulls her laptop from her bag. Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Happy it's almost the end of the day. You? I've had the worst morning. I ended up spilling my coffee down my t-shirt, so I had to walk 40 minutes at lunch to go back and change. She laughs, her easy smile belying her annoyance. I laugh along with her, cautious that the lecture will soon start. Would you mind lending me your notes for the seminar this morning, please? Got stuck in traffic, so I didn't make it on time, I sigh. Of course. I'll email them over to you, she grins. Thank you, I smile back, turning my attention to the front of the hall, where Tom now stands, ready to enlighten us on the intricacies of the human heart. As Tom is setting up his PowerPoint slides, the last few students trickle in. We're quite a small group, so I've pretty much memorised all the faces of the students in this class, my gaze passing passively over each one as they take their seats. I copied the title on the board into my notepad, ready to start making notes the second Tom dives into his lecture. Immersed in the white lines on the notebook in front of me, something urges my gaze to the front of the room, despite everyone now being seated. A weird sense of anticipation washes over me as my eyes rest on the glass pane. A weird sense of anticipation washes over me as my eyes rest on the glass panes of the open door. Shaking my head at this weird feeling, I'm about to give my attention wholly to the lecture when footsteps echo along the corridor outside. My breath catches in my throat at the sight of the boy who strolls through the doors, because even though I've seen him before, his face being one I'll never forget lightly, I've never seen him in this class or anywhere around uni for that matter, is the boy from the cemetery with the dark brown eyes and mysterious face, and he's staring up at me from the doorway, his eyes boring into mine, as if he came to this lecture just to find me, which is absurd because of course he didn't. I avert my eyes quickly, not wanting to stare too long. I peer up through my eyelashes and watch as he takes a seat 2 rows in front of me, directly in my eyesight. As Tom begins his lecture, I find myself watching this mysterious boy in front of me rather than the lecture slides. The end, except it's not, but unfortunately, I don't think I can read anymore, so I hope you enjoyed the 4 chapters plus the prologue that I did just give you. If anyone does want any more, let me know. If anyone wants to know where they can buy it, the link is in my bio. It is on Amazon. It's called Thus with a Kiss by Amy Keeley, spelled AMIE, that's how I spell Amy. But yeah, you can always message me if you've got questions about my book, or even if you're an author and want to know, how I went about publishing it. Those were just a snippet of, something to give you a taste of what the book is. If anyone does want me to do one of these again, I'm sure I can put a poll or something on my story and we can see if, people do want to ever listen to me read my book again. So yeah, that's it from me.